Right, this is me. My name's Paul Willis. I live in a little city called Leicester in England. Now I'm going to tell you a little story about UFO abduction from inside a crop circle in 1959 when I was 5 years old. Now I just started at a Malton Secondary Primary School in Malton, Northampton. I had a friend at school called Terry. Now one day he came up and he was very agitated. He almost seemed motivated to do something, but he grabbed me and got me out on an adventure. We walked down the Northampton Lane North South and diverted down a farmer's track that headed square off of the road out into the fields. And we got down this road and we climbed this gate, and there was a field full of high wheat, higher than our heads. It was very tall. Now Terry set off on a diagonal across the field with me following, and I'm asking him, why are we here? What are we doing? We came across a circle, a ring cut into the wheat, which was exactly perpendicular. The wheat had been squashed down in a circular fashion, and it was pointing towards me. We walked round this circle a bit until we determined that it was a circle, but all the wheat was squashed down in a rotary fashion, like leaning over, pointing towards me. It had been squashed down in a clockwise direction. We were worried. We thought, what the hell is this? Why has the farmer done this? We carried on walking. We came to another circle, and this circle had been squashed down in the opposite direction. It had been squashed down in a counterclockwise direction. We thought, this is really strange. We can't understand this. But why worry about it? So carried on walking, and we came to a vast open circle where all the wheat had been squashed down directly from the centre of this circle. We walked towards the centre of this circle and determined that all the wheat in that circle had been squashed down like the spokes on a bicycle wheel. And we thought, this is really peculiar. We can't understand it. Anyway, we thought, well, we'll sit down in this circle. It's quite safe because anybody that's approaching will see their heads coming through the wheat. So we sat down, and all of a sudden we became very, very tired. I said to Tay, I'm tired, ain't you? And he said, yeah, I'm tired. And then we our eyes started to shut. We started to fall unconscious. We thought, well, we'll have a rest. I asked Terry, what's the time? He checked it on his new watch. It was exactly 4 o'clock. Now, next thing, I am in a pure white room. Bright white it was, but there was no signs of lights in the ceiling or any lights on the walls. But the walls themselves seemed to be radiating pure white light. And I thought, this is really weird. What the hell where am I and what am I doing here? But I was constrained in a pure white, like children's feeding station, like a pure white chair with arms on it and a platform, a plate underneath my neck. So I thought, this is really weird. I don't know what's going on here. But I couldn't move my arms. My arms were constrained on the armrests of this chair, and I couldn't move my legs or feet. They were constrained as well. And I was thinking, what the hell is going on here? Where am I? What's going on? And I thought, well, I don't know. Therefore, I'll try and relax a bit And I also found that there were 2 pads on the side of my head, temples, so I could not move my head from left to right. There was a backrest on the back of this chair and I couldn't move my head up or down. And there was a V-shaped thing under my chin holding my head in a fixed, rigid position. And I thought, this is really weird. Anyway, I was struggling to get out of this chair. On the far wall, there was a wall sticking out from the back of the wall. And from behind that wall came a pure white, strange looking creature that was about 7 foot tall, 7'2". It was incredibly high. And I thought, what the hell's this? What is this? What's going on? Anyway, I started speaking to this creature and it never said a word. It proceeded to come up to me. It had a thumb and 2 fingers. It did not have a thumb and 4 fingers. It had horizontally opposed, clicky-clacky like claw type things on the end of its hands. And it was clicky-clacking this all around my head. And I'm thinking, what the heck? I don't like this. Anyway, this creature then proceeded to, I'd say, reformat my brain. It was injecting by force of will a kind of light and electric beam straight into my brain, from the left hand side, across my brain, right across the central divide of our brain, right into the other hemisphere of my brain. And it was burning. I was in agony. This beam was like trying to connect the left hand side of my brain to the right hand side. As it went across, it would then work its way back like Nero burning software on my CD player. It checks that it's done, it's written the information correctly on the CD or DVD, and it was doing just exactly that. My brain was being reformatted. And I thought, I really don't like this, but the pain was incredible inside my head. I was thinking, I can't stand this, I've got to get out of here. And I was screaming, let me out of here. I want to go home. I've had enough of this. I don't know who you are, but get me out of here. Anyway, after what seemed like hours and days, I've got a feeling inside my body that, you know, your own body clock, you can tell when you need to eat. You can tell the passing of time by how your body feels. Well, I felt that I'd been in this chair for 3 days. I was in absolute screaming agony. The other thing that was really weird was my eyelids were being held open, fixed open. I couldn't shut my eyelids. They were like 2 little cocktail stick type things made out of what seemed like white plastic, wedged in each eye, and my eyelids were permanently open. Could I shut my eyes? No. Was I resisting? Yes. I was fighting with every atom of myself just to get the hell out of there. Anyway, after what seemed to me like 3 days, this white creature, and it had double articulated arms. Its arms bent the opposite way to a human's. And it was really thin. It had a big head and big black almond-shaped eyes. But it was just doing what it was supposed to be doing. There was no reasoning with it. There was no arguing against it. Anyway, after what seemed like forever, I thought, when I'm fighting this with every bit of my strength, what would happen if I relaxed and let this creature just do what it was doing? Anyway, all of a sudden, I felt like a click right inside my brain and a feeling like water flowing inside my head. And I thought, what the hell? And all of a sudden, this white creature summoned another white creature, and then there were two grey creatures of about 4'6" high on my left hand side. There was two whites on my right hand side and two greys on my left hand side. And all of a sudden there came a transference of energy, a telepathic communication between the whites and the greys. The greys communicated like, and the whites were a lot higher frequency. And I thought, I can't understand this, and I don't like these. And all of a sudden, the main white ordered the secondary white to let me go. I thought, fantastic, I'm getting out of here. And then two little grey-brown creatures came up. They were about 3'6", 4 foot high. They were actually, when I got released, they were actually only as tall as the bottom of my chin. They were actually smaller than me, and I'm 5 years old. So, these last lot of creatures let me out. I thought, fantastic, I'm out of here. Anyway, the two of them came up and escorted me into another room. They sat me in another chair, and then I could understand what these other creatures were saying. I could hear what they were saying inside my own head. I'm thinking, well, this is strange, but it seems it's better than no communication. So I started communicating with these other creatures, and I called them the UBJobs, because they were so jolly, they were so happy like creatures. They had feelings and emotions. The greys and the whites had no emotions whatsoever. They were cold, they were mercenary, they were just like, we've got a job to do and we're going to do it. But the little creatures were actually communicating with me, and I was having conversations with them. And they took me on a little tour around the ship. It was a circular, what you would call flying saucer, and there were various different rooms in there. But they let me see inside the ship. And the main UBJob, I call them, was communicating with me very calmly, very gently and lovingly. And he was telling me all about their race and where they came from and stuff like this. He took me on a trip back to their planet, their home planet, through his consciousness. I flew back to his home planet and I saw their homesteads and buildings. They were like an agricultural society. They weren't technical at all. They were just like subsistence living. They lived a really happy, peaceful life. And I thought, fantastic, these are nice people. I called them people. So I thought, out of all these creatures I've met, these are people. Anyway, I'm talking to him, and he says, what do you do on your planet? And I said, well, I'm at school, I'm learning this, that and the other. And he says, well, what activities have you got? I said, well, yeah, I do a bit of this and do a bit of that. And I like listening to music that my parents play. And he said, what's music? And I thought, well, how come you don't know what music is? And this is about 40 years before the great film Flight of the Navigator. And I thought, well, they don't know what music is. So I started singing a song that I learnt off my mother, which was the Boogie Boogie Bugle Boy of Company B. I started singing that, and I projected that as a thought into the head of the guy that I was speaking to. And he was amazed. He said, this is fantastic. I said, yeah, it's just music. And he transmitted that message to all the fellow beings of his own type in the ship. And I thought, this is great, but they were all overjoyed. They were all overjoyed. They were doing their little jobs, whatever they were, and they were virtually dancing with happiness. And I thought, this is great. So he takes me on a tour around the ship, a physical tour. There I am, walking around the ship, and he takes me into this little room off to the side. There was an entrance ramp, and off the side of that there was like a raised area, spiralling up. And there was a little room off that, and I was walking into this little room, and it was like a washroom. It was like there's pipes and tubes all over the floor. It looked like stainless steel. And they're obviously a place where when you got on the ship, they disinfected you. They sponged you down, they hosed you down. And I thought, this is, well, I can't understand this, but I saw the outside of the ship was circular. And there, to one side, there was like a little water fountain. And I thought, right, I'm thirsty as hell, I'm going to have a drink here. So I washed my hands in the water, washed my face, had a drink of this water, and this guy was stood there like really happy. And it took me out of that room into a few other rooms in the ship, and I saw some equipment that I didn't understand, but I thought, well, don't worry about it. And it took me back down that little ramp thing into this curved area, and there was loads of kids in there. I thought, well, this is really weird. There's kids here of every nationality on the earth. There's Chinese, there's black, there's Asian, there's white English, there's white American. And he introduced me to these kids, but some of them were what I'd call hybrids. They're definitely a cross between aliens and humans. One of these hybrids was a little girl, and she was about 4. But she had a really strange shaped head. Her head was really broad. I mean, our heads come to a certain width, but her head was like much bigger, much wider, and had a great dent type thing in the middle, and big black almond shaped eyes. But I looked at her and I thought, oh my God, I better not think in case my thoughts get through to her, because it might disturb her, because I was shocked that such a creature could exist. And she had a thin neck. Her neck was incredibly thin and long, and I thought, how the heck can that sized neck support that sized head? So I started thinking, don't think, keep your thoughts blank, don't express any anxiety or fear or revulsion towards this creature, because it's not their fault that they are the way they are. So I thought, right. Anyway, a couple of greys appeared on the right hand side, and they introduced me to all these kids. But 2 of these kids were what nowadays might be called star children, or omega children, or indigo children. They were highly intelligent, but they were ripping my mind to bits. They were giving me stuff like Plato and Socrates and great philosophers, and arguing the toss with me about the meaning of life and the purpose of existence. And I thought, I can't be doing with this. I don't want to hear these kids. I'll get them away from me. And the Ubjub king came up, little short guy, and just never said a word, but just raised his finger and went. And these 2 kids stopped and backed away. I thought, thank God for that. They were doing my head in. Anyway, next thing, I'm being escorted down this ramp, out of the ship, and onto firm ground. And at that point I thought, this is weird. Is this a past recollection of something that happened in the past? Or is this actually happening now? And I thought, I can't be bothered with thinking about this. I've got to get home. So I turned around and I started walking up this ramp. Next thing, I'm back in the field with Terry, lying on the ground on our backs, and I noticed that my right shoe was on his left foot, and his left shoe was on my right foot. And I thought, this is weird. Don't know how that's happened, but we became aware that our faces felt burnt, our eyes felt burnt. We felt like we'd been staring at a bright light for hours and hours. We could hardly see. And we thought, oh, what's time, Terry? He says, oh, 7 o'clock. Oh, bloody hell, we better get home quick. We're supposed to be in at 6. So we shot off home and got home about 20 past 7. I got a right bollocking. Oh, why weren't you home at 6? Oh, we got lost. Well, get to bed straight away with no dinner. You're grounded for a week, and don't do this again. But we never spoke about it. We were too traumatised to even speak about it. And a couple of years passed, and I was at school, and I was thinking, I've got to get somewhere urgently. I've got to get somewhere really quick. And all of a sudden, I found myself walking down the farmer's track into his field, cutting across the field, encountering another crop circle, but this time all the direction of the weeds that had been trampled down or smashed down somehow was in the opposite rotation. The first circle I met this time, the wheat was pointing in the anti-clockwise direction. And the next circle I came to, the wheat was pointing in a clockwise direction. But they're exactly the same in the centre of the circle. I walked towards the centre of the circle, and there's Terry. Stood there as large as life, and I'm thinking, what are you doing here? And he says, oh, pleased to meet you, mate. What are you doing here? I said, I don't bloody know, mate. This is weird. Next thing, we've fallen asleep again. But from that second encounter, I have no memories of being taken aboard a ship whatsoever. Anyway, I'll leave this little story for your comprehension and hope you gain some benefit from it. Right, cheers for now.